Good evening, everybody. Thankful Tuesday to you all. Welcome to Loosen the Cords That Bind, the segment called Let's Talk About It. My name is Dr. Eleanor Thompson, and I am the CEO of Loosen the Cords That Bind, LLC. This is a for-profit business. I am the host on tonight. I thank you for joining me on whatever platform that you may be on, and I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and allowing me into your homes or wherever you may be on tonight. Again, I say thank you. Again, I thank God for allowing me this particular platform on True Life Radio, and I thank God for Pastor Paul Thompson Paul and his lovely wife Elder Michelle Paul, the owners of True Life Radio. And may God forever bless them. And I encourage you also to support them. They're not asking me to do it. I'm doing this because that's my heart to do. And if we can't support them monetarily, do so by prayer. Amen. You can pray, right? And prayer moves the hands of God. So either or, it will be a blessing. You know, when you get the opportunity as well, please like, click, and share. I'm on this particular platform every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Amen. And I will encourage you to share it so others may hear it. Again, share it so others may hear it. Now, reiterating this, as I always do, this is a platform of domestic violence, for domestic violence. But usually, sometimes, and a lot of times, I would say, I often discuss things that happen in life, not these things, because domestic violence is a part of somebody's life, and different things happen in life. So I can address a lot of things on here, not just domestic violence. So, you may not need it, but you may come across someone that may need some information or just a little encouragement. Okay, so share it. Amen. And I thank you for that on tonight. Now, before I get into um, this particular segment, I'm going to share some numbers with you, and then we're going to get moving. The first number I'm going to share with you is for Safe Horizon. If you are in any type of abusive relationship and you need assistance right away, if you are in a life-threatening situation, then I advise you and I admonish you to call 911. But if there are things that you may need, like resources and different things, please, by all means, this is the number to call because they have a plethora of resources. And that number is for Safe Horizon is 1-800-621-4673. Again, that number is 1-800-621-4673. And that 4673 spells the word HOPE, HOPE. Now, for the regular, if you're out of New York and you by chance you're listening, that number for abuse is 1-800-799-7233. Again, that number is 1-800-799-7233. And that 7233 spells the word SAFE, SAFE. Now, on the other hand, if you would like to reach out to me or call me or contact me, my contact number is 1-800-454-4639. Again, that number is 1-800-454-4639. And again, if you're, for any reason, if you need prayer or anything or questions that you may want to ask, please leave a message, clear message or detailed message so that I can contact you. Or you let me know if it's okay for me to, respond to your call because I don't want to put you in any kind of danger whatsoever. So make sure you let me know if it's all right to call you back or give me a number that I may reach you or you call me. Amen. Okay, great. So just know that when you're in a relationship, abuse relationship, you don't have to stay there. It's not a life sentence. There is life after abuse. There is life after abuse. Amen. So now, let's go. Last week, not last week, the the prior week or the last session that I had, and that I was dealing with some things. First of all, we were talking about, I was mentioning to you, first it was about guilt and shame, and then I went on to the guilt and shame of rape. And then now I'm dealing with trauma, basically. And I was going to deal with the trauma of rape, but wanted to give you a little idea of what trauma basically is before I go with the rape part of trauma, right? So in the last session, I was having a conversation about trauma. So what is trauma again? It is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience or life-threatening with lasting adverse effects on the individual functioning and mental, physical, social, emotional, and or spiritual well-being. She's like spiritual well-being, what it has to do. Yes, because people in church are traumatized too, and they traumatize you as well. Hello, absolutely. You can get traumatized in church, or just traumatized to the fact. What I'm saying is that even so that it can mess up your spiritual part, well-being. It's to the point that sometimes you may be going through something so traumatic that you can't even pray. Have you ever been there? I have. It is sometimes it happens, and sometimes things are so traumatic that you can't even get a prayer. Your mind's not even on prayer because your mind is just not there. So thank God for the prayers that we prayed before. That's been in your good season, and when everything's good and well, you're supposed to pray at all times. But when things are good, make sure you put in that time, because you can put it up. It's just like putting money in the bank. You can get it later. You can go and get some money back from it later on, but you have to put something in there to get something out of it, right? So, and that part of it, and then the conversation continued as I was talking about various sources of trauma, and I was telling you about again, rape, domestic violence. I dealt with some of the natural disasters like severe or injury, and which is the ongoing relentless stress, basically. And then I did mention like the death of a loved one and witnessing the act of violence. And I mentioned about 911 and COVID, right? And I also mentioned that it was possible for trauma after witnessing something from a distance, especially young children, because they are so vulnerable to trauma. And they should really, don't wait, say they're going to grow out of it, And again, let them, they should psychologically be examined after traumatic event, to ensure that their emotional, their emotional well-being, because you see children and they're acting out. Some kids are just whatever they are, some have problems or whatever, but then there are things as they grow up that they don't, can't process, and then until they get older and things like that. And that's why you see so many things out in the street, but you say, they're acting up, they're in gangs, they're doing this, they're smoking, they're drinking, they're robbing, and things of that nature. And we don't know what's deep down on the inside that's really pushing all that stuff up, because you just see a part. Like, and I was dealing with something when I was dealing with emotional way back, maybe a year ago, and we talked about the iceberg, and you just see in the water, you just see a little part of it, but down under there's so many other components that they have to deal with as well, right? So make sure, just don't take things for granted and say, oh, they're just bad or whatever. There's a reason sometimes, right? And the process of waiting to tell sometimes, like I said before, I always wonder why people came like that. Like, for instance, they talked about Cosby and things like that. And, they, was whatever that he done to them, that they said, or whatever the case would be, and why they waited so long. And why did children wait so long when things happen in their childhood, days until they get older, because sometimes they know something is wrong, but they don't know what. And sometimes the pieces come together piece by piece. And sometimes they don't know how to process that thing. So it becomes really a nuisance to them in a sense, because they can't process it. They don't know how to. So that's why sometimes they have to wait. And then they come out, everything comes out then. But there's a time for everything. Everybody has a different processing time. And as I said, as I go into this, especially with child abuse per se, you will deal with those issues. Now, and our last thing, as we talked about the PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and I wanted you to understand how rape trauma it correlates and they compare with each other. However, the PTSD are usually things that we experience in our daily lives, like a cause and effect situation. Again, I make mention of the example that I said. Example, this happened because that happens, right? We get hungry because our body needs nourishment on a regular basis, or thirsty because we aren't sufficiently hydrated. And this is a very unpredictable disorder. This PTSD is a very unpredictable disorder, and it doesn't happen immediately, and it doesn't happen, or it doesn't have one specific cause, and it can reoccur at any time after an event. An event is the thing that happened that causes that to happen. Basically, it's called an event. As often as it pleases, per se, for as long as it pleases. Furthermore, I mentioned that about emotional symptoms of trauma and the manifestations of it as well. So, if you will, allow me again to begin where I left off, dealing with some of the emotional symptoms. Right? Let's go. But before that, when I look at it, I was looking at these things like the post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. They're emotional as well as physical. And when I start going down the list, you understand what I'm saying. Now, the nightmares. These are right now. I'm getting ready to go over the symptoms, the post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. Some of them, right? You have nightmares, guilt, intrusive memories. These things keep coming up. Like recall. Things that you really don't want to think about. They just like pop up and like put you in that space that you don't really want to be in. Poor judgment, survivor's guilt, and I heard a lot of that survivor's guilt, especially after COVID, because some people's like, well, why they had to go and I'm still here, because you still have purpose. And sometimes we don't have the answer to every question, right? And I was dealing with a senior, and he was saying that, why is he still here? His friends are gone, his wife is gone. Why am I still here? He felt something like he felt guilty just for being alive, right? You have the flashbacks, you have avoidance, nobody want to be bothered, nobody. You avoid people or any kind of situation. Insomnia, you just up all the time, you can't sleep. Anxiety, startle response, like, just one of those kind of things. Loss of motivation, you don't want to do anything. Sometimes I find myself, you have those kind of feelings sometimes. Lack of feelings, poor self-esteem, negative self-image, hyper-vigilance. That's extreme paranoia. It's like, oh, if they're coming to get me, you look at everybody because you think everybody, you on a like high alert and very watchful. Like I said before, the state of quality of being extremely alert and watchful, extremely paranoid, poor concentration, short-term memory loss, helplessness. These are, again, symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Helplessness, depression, hopelessness, apathy, the lack of interest, again, ulcers, and these are the physical part of it because your sometimes your emotions affect your physical part because it causes things in your body to happen and to form. Ulcers, arthritis, physical pain, mistrust, communication problems, stress, rage, irritability, and frustration. Did you find yourself in any of those? Not saying you have that disorder, but sometimes we have some of the characters of those. Now, the emotional system symptoms of trauma is one of the most common ways in which trauma manifests. Right? Some common, they will say, emotional symptoms of trauma include denial. Nobody want to feel like they got something going on that is like a kind of negative kind of thing. Anger, sadness, and emotional outbursts. You are you ever around? Have you been ever around somebody as such? And then victims may redirect their overwhelming emotions that they experience toward other people, right? The other sources, those that are close to them, such as friends or family members. This is one of the reasons why trauma is difficult for loved ones as well. Sometimes it's like it's so hard to deal with, when you see all these different emotional things coming at you or from that certain person or that family member or friend, something we don't know somehow to deal with them. So, but being that I'm telling you and giving you some clues, you will be better equipped, and be more attentive to that and be more understanding per se. Although it's hard to help someone who pushes you away, it's not easy when somebody want to be, just like leave me alone. I'm good. Leave me alone, right? But understanding the emotional symptoms that come after a traumatic event can help ease the process some. You won't you won't have your feelings out there and you wearing them on your sleeve or whatever. You kind of understand what they're going through, and like okay, and continue until you break through that. But sometimes it takes persistence. You just can't give up on people. You have to sometimes endure with them all the way. Since you have friends and stuff like that, you're not or family members, you're not going to give up on them because they have a problem. You're going to try to work it out with them and try to ride out the waves with them, right? Because somebody has to take time with you, so that you have to reciprocate that. Because you never know. You can't say never. But things happen in life that we have no control of, not any control of. So there you go. Right now, dealing with the physical symptoms of trauma. Trauma often manifests physically as well as emotionally. Like I was reading to you those symptoms that I just read, right? And some of those, the common signs of that trauma is paleness. Well, it's according, I must say paleness because it's according to skin tone and all like that. We have different shades and things like that. So your paleness might not look like someone else's paleness or whatever. But you can tell it'll just be like a kind of grayish kind of thing, right? Color, right? Lethargicness, fatigue, poor concentration, and a racing heartbeat. Right? The victim may have anxiety or even a panic attack and be unable to cope with certain situations or circumstances per se. Then the physical symptoms of trauma can be as real as alarming to those of physical injury or illness. That's how real it is. And care should be taken to manage stress levels as well after a traumatic experience. If you know somebody like that, you really got to watch them carefully. You really have to watch them carefully and be, vigilant about it. Now, here are some of the short-term and long-term effects of trauma per se. All effects of trauma can take place either in a short period of time or over the course of weeks, or even years. Like something traumatic happened to, the childhood, like rape per se. Years and years, I don't know if I denied it or wasn't there, or it's just that no, it didn't happen, or it did happen, and like I'm not, not thinking about it. But later on, certain things happen, like wow, that was kind of wretched right there, and things of that nature. And sometimes people cannot deal with certain things, and sometimes their body, they sometimes have breakdowns because of it. But thank God for being strong, that He made you strong, that you can kind of deal with some things and look at it and kind of filter those things out, right? Now, any effects of trauma should be addressed immediately to prevent permanence, meaning the sooner trauma is addressed, the better chance a victim has of recovering successfully and fully. That means don't wait and say, okay, well, we're going to give it another week. Then another week goes by, and then the months goes by and stuff like that, and you still haven't dealt with that thing. The longer you take to deal with it, the worse it's going to get. Just like with anger, if you don't deal with anger right away, it becomes something totally. It becomes all kinds of things, and that's one thing. It's a little smoldering thing to become a big inferno because you didn't deal with it when you should have dealt with it. Now, short-term and long-term effects of trauma can be similar, but long-term effects are generally more severe. Short-term, basically, the mood changes are fairly normal, but if the shifts in mood swings last longer than, I would say, like they were saying, a few weeks, then a long-term effect can occur. The medical advice for that is if you're dealing with trauma of any kind, know that not all trauma requires medication. Because a lot of times people, especially our kind, other persuasion, they'll go get the medication. Like, we're not doing that. Mm-mm. We are not taking the medication at this point. Sometimes you're right, and then if it continues, you need to get some help. If not, you need to go seek some advice. Don't just be there and just assume things. It's just gonna fall into place. So sometimes that's where denial comes in. That no, it ain't that bad. It's gonna go away. But it can be a useful tool in treating the symptoms. When I say tool, I'm talking about the medication, in treating the symptoms of anxiety and depression. However, it is important to work with a healthcare professional to determine whether medication is necessary. Now, just don't go there and get it and don't do anything with it. Especially if you really having problems. Sometimes we become our own worst enemy. Now, here are some recovery tips for trauma. It means to get moving. Trauma disrupts our body's natural equilibrium, right? Freezing you in a state of hyperarousal and fear, as well as burning off adrenaline and releasing endorphins. Exercise and movement can actually help repair your nervous system. Did you know that? Sometimes when we don't feel the adrenaline and the endorphins, they will help. They will help to repair the nervous system. Try to exercise for 30 minutes or more, or do in intervals of 10 minutes, right? Be engaging with both arms and legs, walking, running, and swimming, basketball, and dancing. And they said that, these things works the best when I was reading and was doing a little research. Then add a mindful element. Focus on your body and how it feels as you move. Be cognizant of how, when you're working out, or how you feel, those endorphins get to going, adrenaline gets to pumping, and you start feeling better. Sometimes we get in such of a rut, and sometimes it's hard to get out of it. especially when you're depressed. Don't isolate yourself, especially after a traumatic event. We don't want to be around others. And that's how I felt after the COVID. I don't want to be around nobody. Just let me be. I don't be about nobody. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't see them. I do not. But we need to connect to others face to face to help the healing problem. Comfort comes from feeling engaged. Did you hear that? Comfort comes from feeling engaged. You're talking with people, you're engaging in conversation, activities. That's where comfort comes from. Comfort. Again, ask for support. You don't have to talk about the trauma itself per se, but need someone who listens attentively and not be judgmental. And I keep going, and the judgmental thing keeps coming back up. Turn to a counselor or a trusted family or mentor or clergyman. But again, make sure that they have that they are integral, because I know, especially dealing in church situations, a lot of I find in counseling sometimes that many people do not want to go to their pastors or leaders because they have diarrhea of the mouth, and they figure out that what I say to them is going to be broadcast over the pulpit the next time a meeting or somewhere along the line, or other people will know when they should not know, because whatever you learn in therapy and in counseling, that you have to be integral, and things of that nature. You cannot, you're not supposed to tell other people's business per se, because whatever's done there is there, and no one else should hear that. It's private. It's not your job to go and broadcast somebody else's stuff when they're telling it to you. So if you're out there, please have some integrity. Be integral in your dealings with people, especially in counseling and therapy, because this thing could make them or break them. Be sincere. Be honest. Probity means trust and trustworthiness. Another thing you can do is participate in social activities. Connect with old friends, and if you retreated from the relationship that were once important to you, go back again. Reconnect with old friends. Join a support group. These are some recovery tips that I'm going over. Join a support group for trauma survivors. Volunteer. Reclaim your sense of power by helping others. It feels good when you can help others. Make new friends. Meet people with similar interests that you have. Self-regulate your nervous system. How do you do that? No matter how agitated or anxious or out of control you feel, it is important to know that you can change your arousal system and calm yourself. Yeah, you can calm yourself. This will relieve the anxiety associated with trauma. This also will give you a greater sense of control. It can be done. Sometimes you have to talk to yourself. No, you got to calm down. You just doing too much right now. Just calm yourself. You got to talk to yourself, and it will listen. Yourself will listen to you. Right? Next thing is mindful breathing. And this is a quick way of calming yourself, simply taking like 60 breaths, focusing on each out breath. Breathe in, out. Breathe in, out. And then you have the sensory input, per se, petting like an animal, specific sight, smell, or taste. Could to make you feel calm. You have to stay grounded. Sit in a chair, feet on the floor, and acknowledge your feelings. Take care of your health. Get plenty of sleep. Avoid alcohol and drugs. You don't need no get me high kind of thing going on. All right. So a lot of times Christians, they'll get a little wine for the stomach's sake and all this other stuff, and it'll be more than for the stomach's sake, if you get me. Sometimes people get hooked up on opioids, pills, and stuff like that, as a way of escape. No, but these things, at the ending of the day, when you do these things in secret, it manifests in the body and comes out as health problems when you do these things, because those pills causes other problems to take place in your body. So be careful when you're dealing with all these pills and stuff, for all different kind of sorts of reasons that you're just taking them to escape certain situations. You can't escape everything. You can't escape everything. A well-balanced diet, reduce stress. Try some relaxation tips, techniques, meditation, yoga, deep breathing exercises, and hobbies. Right? So, as I close on tonight, you know that if you never heal from what hurt you, then you bleed on people who did not cut you. Like the trauma kind of thing. Your trauma is not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. So on tonight, I leave you with that. Your trauma is not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. Think about it. Whatever is traumatizing you, deal with that thing. Get some help. Don't just leave it there. Get some help. So on tonight, I said, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in on tonight. Take a time out of your busy schedule. Enjoy the rest of your night. Good night. God bless you.